now. So welcome to group session number 3 of practitioner training. This is a very exciting opportunity to learn about proxy and surrogate training. This proxy surrogate training will stand you in good stead for all work that you do for the rest of your life. So it's not just about Magical You. You can implement this in other ways once you know how to do it. So we'll just let Khan get settled in.
Mm-hmm.
I think Khan's done proxy surrogate at least twice, or maybe even 3 times. So he might be the expert.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do, I'm going to share my screen, and we'll read through the document that I sent together. And what I want just to say is there's no stupid questions here. I really want you to understand the difference between proxy and surrogate. And I'm saying that because what's interesting is that some people, what we at Magical You will call surrogate, somebody else might call proxy, and vice versa. They also might call it remote healing, or distant healing. So there's no right or wrong here, but I think what's important for us is that we have the same language within Magical You. So if I'm talking to you and you're talking to me about surrogate, I know what you're talking about, and if you're talking about proxy, I know. And the reason I mention this is because what I don't want ever is for you to be talking to somebody else and they say, well, that's not surrogate, that's blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, I understand what you're saying. However, there's different interpretations of this. I want you to be fully aware, if somebody challenges you, that they might have a different perception of these techniques, and it doesn't really matter. Just so that you know. So here we go. It's calm again. Okay. Is everybody able to see that? Great. Okay. And it's not really necessary that you read it, but you've got this document, and the document really is as a reminder for you after today. So proxy and surrogate work are valuable additions to your Magical You toolbox, and they can be incorporated with many other skills and practices. So this work is invaluable when working with children who can be unpredictable, lose focus in session work. And it also brings a new awareness and possibilities around energy work. And it's simple and easy to do. So what does that mean? If you're working in private practice, and say, for instance, mum brings their daughter to you for a session, you've booked your time out, and the daughter comes in and she starts playing the game. And halfway through, for whatever reason, she might get bored, she might have an attention, not be able to hold her attention, and she might just decide that she is not going to finish playing the game. For all sorts of reasons, any reason. So where does that leave you? It leaves you halfway through a session. You're fed up, mum's fed up, and we don't know how the child is feeling. Now, what is great is when you can do this work, what you can do is allow the child, obviously you make sure that the child is safe, but if the child decides they do not want to finish the session for any reason, what you can do is you can then use the parent to finish the game. And depending on the situation, you would bring them in as probably proxy, which is a stand-in for their child, which means you can finish the session, which will make you a happy practitioner and will also make mum happy because the session completed itself. So The terms proxy and surrogate may be described differently by others, and there's no right or wrong. However, for simplicity, it's important that practitioners of Magical You use the same name within our practice while accepting that others may have different names. So proxy, and let's just say it's probably now proxy that you're going to use more than anything else. And this is because we're all working on Zoom and doing this kind of work. But it's very good to understand what surrogate is, because it does also offer another opportunity. So the definition of proxy is a stand-in. And so it's proxies when the client cannot or will not participate, such as a child who's upset, a person who is ill, a pet, or someone who's not present. The facilitator, so there's a difference. So if I'm the facilitator, I can be the stand-in for that person that does not want to complete the session. Does that make sense? Okay. So say, for instance, we're in the same room, and Susan's there with her little boy. God help him. And I'm working on the little boy. Oh no, sorry. So Susan's not there. Little boy's there. Little boy's there. And little boy decides he's not going to complete the game, and he goes off. I can continue as the facilitator and complete the game and make the releases on myself using the game. That is one way to do it. Using a parent or a relevant adult as a proxy is also invaluable. So it's recommended that we only really do this in extreme circumstances. It's always better to work on the child, or it's always better to complete the session on the client if you can. But when you get in these unusual situations, it means you've got something to fall back on and you can complete, and it's very, very useful. So it's as a last resort. And it should be made clear that when you are proxy for another person, you are not that person, you are the stand-in. You are the stand-in for that person, and you need to think about what they would want or how they would respond, not what you want for that child. So the other proxy would be Susan comes in with the little boy. We're working on the little boy, and little boy gets fed up and runs off. Susan can then be proxy for the little boy and finish the session. So I would remain being the facilitator. So I would facilitate the game, but I would change from working on the little boy to working on Susan, who's the one that brought the little boy. Does that make sense? Yeah, okay. When we're working on Zoom, and help me here, Susan, because this is where it gets a bit tricky sometimes. I am the facilitator. Susan is there with the little boy. Susan can be the facilitator. Susan can be the facilitator. I can be watching. Susan can be the facilitator of the game. And then the little boy runs away and Susan can continue by herself.
Can you say that again, Jazz? It was a little.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay, let me get this right. It's really tricky when we bring in Zoom and I try to explain it. I'm the facilitator, and Susan has brought in a little boy, and he's the client.
Okay.
The little boy is playing the game with me. This is right. The little boy is playing the game with me. So it's like a one-on-one session. He is playing the game as himself, and I am the facilitator. And Susan's watching. Little boy runs off and doesn't want to play the game again for whatever reason. Susan can then stand in for the little boy, and she can be proxy for the little boy.
Yeah. Yes.
It's important, though, that whoever it is does not try and decide what that child wants. It's good that they have some kind of knowledge, or that they intuit, they allow the cards to do the work rather than making up their mind about what that child wants. This will happen quite naturally. It sounds amazing, but it's what seems to happen is when we get permission to be a proxy or surrogate, the energies connect and you tune in automatically and kind of get a knowing of what goes on. This is absolutely brilliant when a mum is working as proxy for her child who can't be there, because they, as everybody knows, mums and children are so close, but we tend to think that they need to be in the same room. Well, they don't, because you're tuned into their energy all the time. A magical you allows you to play the game and feel what they want. So it's really quite a magical experience. So
Jazz, I just want to be clear about it. So the example you're using, that I bring in a boy or girl, and they start to play the game with you as the facilitator. Yes. And then whatever, they get distracted, they get, yes, you know, who knows what happens. Anyway, they kind of disappear in some ways. And so then I, as the person who brought the child in, can be proxy for that child, and you stay as the facilitator.
Correct.
Is that right?
I mean, we're assuming, Susan, that it's, you know, you don't know how to play the game. We're not,
yeah, you know, we're not, right. Yeah.
You don't know how to play. You're
just a parent figure.
The child, yes.
Yeah, I'm a parent figure. Yeah, I just want to, because it gets a little complicated in that. Sometimes it's a little bit confusing.
It is, and that's why it is a little confusing. It's when we start to bring in this other dimension. Mm-hmm. But if you think about it in simple terms, it's if for some reason the client can't show up or gets distracted and can't complete the game, somebody else can be proxy, can be stand-in for that person. And we're going to practice this. I'm going to do a demonstration of this today. And if you don't get it, it doesn't matter, because next week, what we're going to do breakout rooms, and you'll get the opportunity to practice. So let's move on.
Yeah.
So in these situations, the adult or stand-in can make the releases on the client if appropriate, or on themselves if they are proxy for the client. The client should be engaged in the session as much as possible, but not forced to say or do anything they are not willing to do. Giving the client, especially a child, freedom to choose how they participate or not is likely to get them curious and want to participate in playing the game, even if they are not fully engaged. There was a situation once in Hong Kong. Mum brought the daughter. Daughter was going to have a session. She was probably about 10 or 11 years old. She decided on the last minute she didn't want to come into the room and do the session. So I said, oh, well, never mind, Mum, why don't you come in and you play the game. So mum came in to play the game, and the daughter watched. So mum was playing the game and releasing on herself. The daughter got curious, and the daughter joined in the game. And I invited the girl to do the releases for herself. So what was that? They were both playing. They were both playing a game. It was the mother's game, but the daughter was joining in, doing the releases, and she was getting ever such a lot out of it. And what happened then is the daughter was like, oh, okay, now I'll play the game. So then we were able to play the game with the little girl, because she could see that mum was, it was okay with mum. Mum was okay with it, and she understood what was going on. And what was very interesting about that game was, although the little girl had come with a skin complaint, and mum didn't have a skin complaint, they were both choosing the same cards. It was unbelievable. So was that proxy or surrogate? It really wasn't one or the other, but they were both doing the releases at the same time. So what's important for me is, when somebody is going to be proxy for somebody else, we need to be in integrity. And this is very, very important for me. You can't just say, oh, right, okay, you can be proxy. We need permission. If something's going to work, it means the parties need to be willing. Now, what does that mean? It means a parent has the authority to be proxy for their child. If the child is under the age of, now let's say they're under the age of 12. Now that's not a rule, but what we have to do is accept that a child at some point will be sophisticated enough to have free will. Now that might be around about age 12. It might be older. So it will be you as a practitioner to decide what that is. So if mum comes in and said, oh, I want you to do some work on Anthony, he's 16. Like, no, Anthony is an adult and Anthony needs to give permission for himself. Would you agree?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. But if Anthony's 8, Anthony doesn't really fully know what he wants yet. So mum, dad, as the parent and having the greater good at heart, can give permission for somebody to be proxy for their son or daughter. A wife cannot, should not, and you should not accept to be proxy for their husband. If a child is, say, 15, 16, and they give permission, then that's also completely fine. The carer of a pet, let's say the owner of a pet, can give full permission as the owner or the carer of the pet to be proxy, or for somebody to be proxy or surrogate for their animal. And I've done a lot of practice sessions here with Magical You. My animals have been proxy or surrogate for quite a few people practicing. So that is proxy. Proxy is stand-in. Surrogate is a little bit different, and surrogate means that we bring in another person to be an extension cord for that person. So there is physical touch involved. It doesn't happen so much these days, but when I was learning doing energy, it would happen quite frequently. And what would happen would be the client who, for whatever reason, could not be worked with directly, would be in the room. They might be ill in bed and not be able to fully participate, but we would bring in an extension cord, and that extension cord would give permission to be surrogate. And once they had done that, they would then make contact, hold hands preferably, or hand on the leg, and keep in contact with the client throughout the session. The main thing about that is at the end of the session, well, in both surrogate and proxy, when you break the session, the person who is being the proxy or the surrogate needs to make sure that they are not holding on to the energies of their client, big or small, and they bring themselves back into their own being, their own body. And we'll do that in the demonstration. So if you think about working with an animal, and animals are brilliant to work with because it either works or it doesn't. They don't say, oh, well, let's wait and see. If it works, you'll see it. And it might take a couple of days for it to show up. But I've worked on elephants, I've worked on cats, dogs, I've worked on what do they call those? It's like a butterfly thing. Anyway, a little an insecty thing that lives in a cage. I've worked on various animals and got results many times. Working with animals is one of the biggest miracles. Working with an elephant was one of the biggest miracles I've ever seen in my life. Yes. And I'd like to share that story with you because it'll probably make you cry. There's a place near here called the Elephant Nature Park, and this lady, she helps animals. She raises millions, and she saves many abused elephants. And she takes them to this massive plot of land that she's got, and she makes these. She puts them into families. So obviously the bulls are kept over where the bulls are kept, but she introduces families together. So you have like a hierarchy, and there's a great aunt and there's a blah, 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 you know, and she introduces them, brings them together as families. And into one of these families, it was lovely. There was a baby born. And of course, everybody was over the moon about this baby. It was called Deck, I think, or Doc, can't remember. Anyhow, great aunt became jealous because her best friend, who was the mum to the baby, was paying more attention to the baby than she was to her friend. So elephants, as you know, very sensitive animals. And so great aunt got fed up, and she started to push the little baby around, which upset everybody. And so the mahouts and different people, they came and they separated. They kept the elephants separate for a while, not tied up or anything. They had freedom, but they kept an eye on them so that the baby was not hurt. And this created conflict in the family, as you can imagine. And we felt very sorry for the great aunt. It wasn't her fault, but she was grieving her friend. And so I started to do some work in 15 minutes. And what was I doing? I was using an American lady. She called herself the elephant psychologist. She knew the backgrounds of all of the elephants, where they'd come from, the connections and all this stuff. And so we were not able, for safety, to touch the elephants. And the elephants that the elephant was actually working on, I couldn't even see. We could see the other four, which included the little baby and the mom. And so we used this little American lady. And so she was proxy for the family of elephants, and I had no idea what that really meant. I did the release on her about 2 or 3 different things. This wasn't Magical You, this was fast track. And within 15 minutes, that great ant elephant came down through the field, through the land. The mahouts got really nervous because they thought she'd come to hurt the baby, but they just stood up to one side, and that elephant came right through, and within 15 minutes, all 5 of the elephants were eating food out of the same basket, and all conflict had disappeared. So what was that? I wasn't touching anybody, but I had a proxy for the family. And there were 4 of us involved in watching this. And the emotion was amazing. Just tears streamed down our face. It's one of the most magical things I've ever seen. And so I was able to help about 10 elephants on that day. And you just watch them change in an instant. So working on animals is really rewarding because they haven't got stories. They have memories, but they are not attached to the stories like we are. So you think about a domestic animal, you're working on your cat. You're holding your cat and you can do a release on your cat. So you're doing a session on your cat. Cat hops off, runs away. What's that? What happens? Can you finish the session? Yes, you become proxy for your cat and you continue the work on yourself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I had speaking of cats, Jazz, I had a similar one. I think you were there when you were in Florida, where I was working with a woman who had a cat who was very withdrawn, not social. She wouldn't really come to the owner at all, even though they were very close in some ways. The cat was very, very withdrawn in that way. And so I did a session for the cat, but with the owner being proxy. Well, let's see, it started with doing it for the cat, but as you say, the cat jumped off immediately. I mean, it didn't take very long before the cat was ready to move on. And so I finished it with the owner being proxy for the cat. And it was totally amazing because the next day, the cat came and the woman was on the couch laying down, and the cat came and laid on her chest. I mean, and she was like so amazed that this cat came and did this. It was the first time ever, and they'd been together for years. So, I mean, it's so powerful what can happen.
So if, say for instance, so Susan, as the facilitator, she could have done the work on the person, on the owner of the animal, because the owner can give permission. The animal doesn't have to be there, it could be hiding under the bed. But the person then becomes proxy for the animal.
Yeah.
They stand in for the animal. Yes, Jean?
So if that's proxy if the cat runs off. If the cat remains seated on your lap, but then you run it on your own self, does that mean you become the surrogate? You're still connected to the cat?
Okay, so yeah, so yes.
You're still holding the cat. That's
yes.
So let's say I have a hamster that continuously runs away. So let's say I'm still holding the hamster, but it's pretty small to try to like do this.
Yes.
So if I'm doing on me, then the surrogate.
You would be well. Okay, so you know probably the best thing is leave the hamster in the cage and do it on yourself, and you're proxy for the hamster. Yeah. As I said, surrogate doesn't happen so much, but it's very interesting to. It's very, very interesting to have that option, because especially if you're doing surrogate, is the person who's the surrogate, they get, you know, they as they're holding, they're touching the client. And so both of them will feel the energy at the same time. But if it's a surrogate, you do the release on the person who is the surrogate, not on the client.
So let's say, for example, might be a very special needs child who doesn't like to be touched. And maybe only the mother can, I don't know, hold the hand or something, but not actually do the release on the body of the child. So if the mother's holding the hand and then doing the release on herself, then she's a surrogate.
She's surrogate, or if there is a facilitator in the room, they can run the magnet or the crystal down the spine of the mother. Yeah. And so for non-verbals and things like this, it would be, you know, very, very useful. It's a great experience. And if I was you, all of you, I would go and look and set that up so you can have a play with it. Don't be frightened of it. You just to go in and have a good experience of it. Because once you've done it once, what I like when I'm working with energy now, I've learned the surrogate and I've learned the proxy. I respect them both. And then what I found is, as I learned this one and then I learned that one, it's like, well, that situation, it's neither one or the other. So what do I do then? And that's when I started to understand, if you respect the energy and you understand the energy, you can do more or less whatever you want. But if you think, oh, I can just do this, well, the truth is you can't. And so what I want you to do is to get an understanding of the difference. And when you've got an idea of the difference, then you will be able to play more with the energy and get the energy to do practically anything that you want. And this is why when I'm teaching anything, I'm teaching what I've learned and how I've learned it. So I learned things the long way around. But then what I learned was, once I understood the difference between this and then this crossover, it's like, wow, now I can do this. This is amazing. But I was in integrity. And that's how I'm able to work with a room of people and bounce around from one to the other. But I don't want people to think that they can just do that because Jazz does it. I respect the energy, I respect the people, and I'm set up before I go in. And now I'm so used to doing it that the energy understands what I'm doing. So I don't have to ask about proxies and surrogates because I'm respecting the energy and it knows what I'm doing.
So Jazz, could you say a little bit more about that in terms of the group?
Well,
but I mean, just in terms of what, I mean, are you kind of setting it up with the energy that this is what I'm going to be doing in the group? I mean, not person by person, but just kind of a general.
Well, let's say like this. You learn how to drive a car.
Mm-hmm.
And you learn it step by step, and you have to think about everything, don't you?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, I know how to drive a car.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, and now I know how to drive an automatic car. So I can drive two cars, right? And you don't have to like, now you just think, no, this is an automatic. Like, okay. So you're able to coast from one to the other because you understand what you're doing. What I don't want people to, especially when I'm doing fast track, anybody comes to my groups and they see that I will work with a group and then I'll pick on individuals and stuff, is I'm doing that because I understand the energy and I respect the energy. And when you do, and so the energy will work for me because I've learned to do it, to identify things in the right way. I'm not just going into a room and saying, oh, okay, so I'm going to do this, 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 and this, and it's going to work for everybody. It's to start working with one person, see how that works out. Oh, okay, this is what I'm doing. I'm doing Proxy here. Okay, all right. Now I'm going to have a go at Surrogate. Oh, okay. Now I'm going to work in this situation. What does that mean? And when you're understanding the different situations, then you can start to blend them. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Thank you.
Any questions? We'll do a demonstration and maybe there'll be questions come after that. But let's continue just talking about integrity. At all times and in all situations, the final decision around whether it's proxy or surrogate work is that you, the practitioner, has the final decision of what to do. The client's welfare should always come first. And just because mum says mum wants this for the child, if that does not, if you do not feel that you are in integrity with that, then you do not do that. And why? Because it won't work. Another story I tell quite frequently is I had a client in Hong Kong. She was fast track 3. And she asked me to do some work for her husband. And I said, so why won't he come for the session? And she gave me a reason, time, work, this kind of stuff. So I said, oh, okay, well, find out what his desired outcome is. And she came back, she said, this is what he wants. I'm like, okay. So she was proxy for her husband who was at work. When I followed up, she said, yeah, great. You know, the next day this happened and that happened, really, really good. So we were all very happy. And then she said, will you do a session for my daughter who is in Shanghai? And said, why can't she show up for the session? Well, because she's at college and time and stuff. And I said, okay, can you tell me what her desired outcome would be? So she came back and we scheduled a time. And when she came back, she said her desired outcome was whatever it was. And I just knew that though the desired outcome was not the desired outcome of a teenage girl, it was the desired outcome of mum. However, since I'd scheduled the time and I'd taken all the precautions I could, I went through the session. And when I followed up, I said, what's happened? She said, nothing, it's not worked, Jazz. I'm like, no, of course it didn't. Because the daughter was not involved. She didn't care. She hadn't been asked permission. It couldn't work.
I find these really very tricky situations where a mother comes in or a parent comes in and has an agenda of what they want to do, and just in general, I'm speaking, and then, you know, how do you see who is the client really? The client, you know, the parent is paying for the session, but the client really is the child. And
well,
and
it is, and you know,
Yeah.
and again, I think it is something in being in integrity. So the parent, if the child is under that certain age, whatever you do, you know, whatever you think, is they do have authority to speak for their child.
Mhm.
But they need to have the child's welfare. And I think as an experience, as a skilled practitioner, we can create something that would be a win-win situation.
Yeah.
So at all times and in all situations, the final decision around proxy and surrogate work is that of the practitioner, and the client's welfare should always come first. It should be valued and respected. And I think most parents, they're good with that. At the end of the session, whether you're completing proxy or surrogate sessions, the proxy surrogate person should repeat aloud. Now you can use your magnet if you want, or make the statement, I am, so I would say, I am Jazz and I come back to me. I am Jazz and I come back to me. I'm breaking state with that person I've been proxy or surrogate for. We can take on other people's energies. There's nothing dangerous about this, but in really extreme situations, people have taken on somebody else's energy, and it's not required to do that. So this is just a precaution to do at the end of a session. And it's also great to do that as a therapist for anything, you know, you're working as a one-on-one, and at the end of it, after they've gone, is just clear yourself of any energies you might have picked up from them. So let us, hello, Khan. First I've seen you. All right. So I'm going to do a session, which will probably be proxy, because proxy is going to be what you're going to be using most, I'm sure. But I want you to know that there is a difference. Now I want somebody to volunteer, but following all of those precautions and, you know, the being in integrity, I want somebody to volunteer to be proxy for somebody they have permission to be proxy for. Right. Now, this would probably be, if you're a mum, it would probably be a child who is under the age of 12. It will be somebody that you know quite well who, well, for this case, they don't need to give permission because you can give permission, or you could choose an animal and we could do it on an animal. When we come back next week and we go into the breakout rooms, you will come with the permission from somebody to do a session on them without them being present. But today you don't have permission from anybody. So it would really be a parent who has a child under, let's say, the age of 12, or whatever you think is appropriate, that you think has got some kind of a challenge going on that we could work with. And recognizing that we stay in integrity all the time, that this will not be spoken about outside of this room. So who would like to volunteer? So let me ask you a question. Who has children here? Okay, so
did Davina put a hand up before?
I don't have children, the problem is.
I don't think she's in trouble if she has.
Yeah.
Ami, would you like to be proxy for one of your children?
Yes.
Yes. All right. Okay. So just tell me, how many children do you have, Ami?
I have 2 children.
Okay. How old
my
are
son is 12 years old and my daughter is 9 years old.
they? Okay. And which of those 2 children do you think would benefit from a magical use session today?
My daughter,
All right.
9 years old.
And what's her name?
Felice.
Felice.
Felice. Yes.
Oh, nice. Felice.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Okay. So Ami has given herself permission to be proxy for Felice. Felice is 9 years old. So would you like to describe to us what the challenge is that Felice is facing in your own words?
She is verbal with me.
Sorry?
She's really open with things. It's different with my personality. Sometimes I kept things, but with my daughter, she's like say it verbally, openly. Sometimes she didn't think how somebody's feel when she says something. Did you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, it's really open. She sometimes like, oh, she's just judging, especially for me.
Mm.
The way I dress, the way I look, the way sometimes it's insulting me, but I receive it as a feedback, you know?
Mm. So this is interesting. So this isn't really about your daughter. This is about you. Okay, so you see, she wants to change her daughter, but daughter probably thinks that she's all right. So daughter hasn't got a problem. So being in integrity, we're not accepting that one. we need to find. So what do you think? So that's the problem that you think your daughter has, all right? But really, it's your problem. So what would a challenge? What challenge does your daughter have going on that you're aware of? What does she complain about? What bothers her?
She actually wanted to make mistake.
She wants to make mistakes.
Yeah, worried to make mistake.
She wanted to make you sick.
Mistake.
Mistakes.
Yeah.
Worried about making a mistake.
Oh,
Making a mistake.
Oh,
Worried.
sorry. Okay, sorry, Amy. Sorry.
Worried about making mistakes.
Okay,
Worried
got it.
about. Thank you,
Okay.
Pakan.
Okay. Now that we can work with. Can you see the difference?
Okay.
Yeah. And can you tell us, how does that, how does she act? How do you know that she's worried about making mistakes?
Every time I do something new or learn something new, she's feel like, oh, no, I'm not capable because that's new. She's not experienced that before. So
Yes.
she's reluctant to do it. And then sometimes I support her, like, that will be okay. This is a new thing. You will learn a lot of things. Everything's going to be okay. And then she try, not directly. Sometimes she's observe first. Observe.
Mm-hmm.
So look at first. And then when she's comfortable, and then she just jump in and, oh, it's fun. Oh, I want to do this. She likes it, something like that. At the beginning, it's a bit hard to encourage her to do something because it's in her mind, it's new. Oh, am I gonna this and then that or something?
All right. Okay, great. Thank you. So if this was a game, and this is Felice's game, not yours, what do you think, in Felice's words, and this is what's important, what do you think Felice would call this game?
Oh, that's what. Challenge.
Challenge. All right. So I just written that, challenge Felice, age 9. So that's her game. All right. Do you have your cards set out there, Ami?
Not yet.
Okay. Wait a minute.
Yep. Okay, ready?
All right, good. Okay. So I want you to get yourself out of your own way and just allow this to be fun. And I want you to look at those cards, probably those cards, those red cards, and thinking about Felice and thinking about and looking at those cards. Which of those cards do you think Felice would choose connected to the challenge?
I just Felice might just different.
Yes. Yeah.
Worried.
Makes sense, of course, yeah.
Embarrassed.
Yeah, got it.
That's all.
Okay, great. Thank you. And tell me, do you know if Felice believes in magic?
Yeah.
Does
She's
she?
big magic.
She loves magic, does she? Okay. And what kind of magic does she love?
What? Unicorn?
Unicorn.
Unicorn.
All right. Do you know that?
Pardon?
Do you know that she loves unicorns?
She loves unicorn.
All right. So here's Felice's magic. All right. So we've got the unicorn here. All right. Okie dokie. So let me just ask you about this card. You know, just thinking about Felice. Well, tell me about that card for Felice.
Pardon?
Tell me.
Could you repeat one more?
Yes. So you're Felice and you've chosen this card. What does this card mean for Felice?
It means like when she make something wrong, she will feel embarrassed and then not want to do that because she's a bit shy to try
Shy.
things.
Yeah.
Shy.
Yeah. Okay.
Not really
Shy.
confident.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So embarrassed and shy. We got shy here. All right. And so looking at that next set of cards up above the red cards, where does this happen, this challenge? Does it happen in more than one place?
At school.
Only at school. Okay. Is that in school, in the classroom, outside, in the playground, where?
Both. Could be
Both.
inside, in the playground, and also having a play date.
Play dates. Okay. So that's like 3 different things. Okay. All right. Any of those other cards, when you look at them, that you're relating to? Now don't think about them, just look at the pictures.
And this one.
Okay. Yeah.
And this one.
All right. Okay. And I'm just worrying, what about this card? You know, if she has trouble doing new things. Because
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
In learning also.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so we've got a good, colorful collection of cards there. So I want you to tell me now, just having talked about that, Amy, where in your body are you feeling this?
In my heart.
Yeah. What does that feel like?
Feel a bit I don't know how to say it. Not really comfortable.
Uncomfortable. Right.
Not comfortable.
0 to 10.
8.
A bit uncomfortable as an 8.
8 or 9.
Oh, okay.
8 or 9.
All right, just a bit. Okay. Anywhere else?
Yeah. My head.
Okay. And what does that feel like?
It's feel like how do I say? Just weird.
Weird.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. 0 to 10 weird?
8.
Anywhere else?
Just brain and heart.
Okay, great. All right. So you see, she's feeling that. Now, is that hers or is that Felice's? We don't know. It could be a bit of both, but she's feeling that in her body. Chances are she's feeling what Felice is feeling. She doesn't have to, but it's just very, very interesting. So bearing in mind, we got the unicorn energy here. What do you think Felice would like to do with this learning, the worried, the different, left out, shy? Do you think she wants to keep it or let it go?
Let it go.
And what do you think she would like to do? How would she like to do that?
She would like to release it and send it to like in the magic place.
And what will happen when it goes to the magic place?
It will stay there.
Stay there.
Stay there. Not coming back to Felice.
Do you think it might transform into something else?
Ooh. Turn into a dust.
Great.
So
All right.
to the
So
sky.
it's going to stay there and turn into dust.
Yeah.
Lovely. All right. Should we do that now?
Yep.
Okie dokie. So I have 2 magic stones here. Unicorn stones. Which one do you think Felice would choose?
The blue one.
All right. Okie dokie. So let's do this. All right. So just bring it to the start at the bridge of your nose here. Okay. Take it over the top of your head, down to the base of your neck, and just say, I'm Felice.
I'm Felice.
And I'm 9 years old.
And I am 9 years old.
And I'm going back throughout the whole of my life.
I'm going back to the whole of my life.
To every challenge.
To every challenge.
Remembered in my body.
Remember in my body.
I'm going to get the worried.
I'm get rid of the worry.
I'm going to get the different.
I'm going to get the different.
The left out.
The left out.
Shy and embarrassed.
Shy and embarrassed.
That happens at school.
That happen at school.
In the playground.
In the playground.
And sometimes on play dates.
And then sometimes at learning.
I'm going to send it to the magic place.
I'm going to send it to the magic place.
And it could stay there.
And can stay there.
And turn into dust.
And then turn it into dust.
And never come back to Felice again.
And then never come back to Felice again.
Right now.
Right now.
Whoa. Phew. What did you feel, Ami?
I'm sweating.
All right. Okay.
I feel like I'm Felice.
Exactly. All right.
Yeah. See, my hands is wet.
All right. So there are quite a lot of cards there. So some of them will have released, maybe some of them haven't, but let's just check in. First thing I would like you to do, please, Ami, is just check with your heart. And you said it felt uncomfortable in your heart. It felt like an 8 or a 9. What's the number there?
5.
Brilliant. And your head, it felt an 8 weird.
4.
Brilliant. Okie dokie. So it seems like the unicorn knows what to do with this stuff, right? Okay, so have a look at the cards that made up Felice's story, and just consider which of these cards does Felice not need now? What can she throw back?
Different.
Okay, got that. It's gone.
Left out.
Gone.
Sad.
Oh, I didn't have sad. Never mind. Okay.
different.
Okay, we've already got rid of that. I've got learning here. Does she need this?
Yes, I think she need.
Okay. Does she need embarrassed?
I keep it embarrassed.
Okay. Worried?
I keep it worried.
Okay, all right. School?
Yeah, I keep it school.
All right, okay, great. So I'm making a decision here to do another release on this side before we go over onto the needs cards. Okay, all right. So should we bring in some magic?
Yeah. Can you use the unicorn? The unicorn? Yes.
All right, okay.
I'm gonna love that.
All right. So we're going to focus on the worried, I think. We're going to focus on worried. Okay, here we go. I'm Felice.
I'm Felice.
And I'm 9 years old.
And I'm 9 years old.
And I'm worried.
And then I'm worried
about making mistakes.
About making a mistake.
I'm going to take that worried.
I'm going to take that worried.
That embarrassed and shy.
That I'm embarrassed and shy.
About doing new things.
About doing new things.
And I'm going to give it to the unicorn.
And I want to give it to the unicorn.
Who's going to fly up.
And then who's going to fly up.
To that magic place.
To the magic place.
Taking all of this with him.
And all of it, this him.
Out of my body.
After my body.
My head and my heart.
My head and my heart.
Right now.
Right now.
What do you think Felice would say?
Oh, I will imagine the unicorn go fly.
All right, great. Okay. So let's just check. The heart felt uncomfortable, went from a 8 or 9 down to a 5. What does that feel like?
Feel more relaxed now?
Yeah.
Since the elbows down 2?
A 2, yeah, that's what I'm getting. A 2, brilliant. And then the head, the weird feeling in the head went from an 8 to a 4. What does that feel like?
0. Feel okay.
Woo! Nope. Big round of applause for the unicorn.
Unicorn.
All right. Do we need this?
No. That's okay now. Nope. Nope, no worries.
All right, so what we're left with is the name of the game, which is challenge. We got the school. Do you need school? Oh, we got unicorn.
Pardon?
So I think what we do is we'll go over to the needs card. So have a look at the needs cards, Ami, and just thinking about Felice. What does she need now to release that remaining 2 in her heart?
This 1.
She needs safe. Yes. Okay. What else? Okay, so sorry, go over to the needs, the green cards.
Oh, sorry.
No, safe is good. We can have safe because the blue, this safe card can be a blue card or a green card.
Okay.
What does she need to let go of the remaining 2? She needs a friend.
Friend? Listen to.
Okay.
This one.
All right. And who does she need to listen to her?
Yeah. And this one.
Support, yeah. Who does she need that from?
From her friends,
Okay.
teachers,
All right. Okay, I've got them here. And what's the name of her
and
friend?
this one, last one is here. Happy family.
I think Ami's getting in the action because see, Ami's bringing her stuff in now. Get out of the way, Mom. So, okay. So what's the name of her friend?
Pardon?
What's the name of her friend?
Tarita.
Karika?
Tarita.
Tarita. Okay.
Tarita.
Okay, I'll try and say that. Okay, so let's do this. Now, don't forget you're Felice, you're not Annie.
Okay.
I'm Felice,
I'm Felice,
and I'm 9.
and I'm 9.
And I'm going to take all of the remaining 2.
And I will take all the remaining
2
feeling, 2
that is in my heart,
that is in my heart.
giving it to the unicorn,
Pardon?
giving it to the unicorn
Giving it to the unicorn
to take to that magic place
to take to the magic place
and to bring back with him
and then bring back with him
support,
support,
listen to by my friend. I'm safe.
And safe.
Safe to do new things.
And safe to do the new things
Now.
right now.
Whoa, gosh, I felt that. How did that feel?
Yeah.
Very powerful.
The sweaty.
Yeah.
Sweaty.
So that was the remaining 2. So just check in with your heart and tell me what's going on there.
Feel okay?
0?
Go now. Yeah.
Okay, all right, great. So we just assumed that she got everything she wanted because that's down to a 0 now. So let's choose what you think she would like to have now that she's got rid of that challenge and done all the magic. What do you think she'd like to fill that space with? These are the blue cards.
To be loved.
Yes.
Special.
Yes.
It's happy.
Got it. Okie dokie. All right. And do you want safe again?
Pardon?
Do you want to bring in safe again?
Yep. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Let's do this. So bring them up high. I'm Felice.
I'm Felice.
And I'm 9.
And I'm 9.
And I'm bringing in all the special.
And I'm bringing all the special.
I'm bringing in the loved.
I'm bringing the love.
The happy for no reason.
The happy for no reason.
And safe.
And safe.
Breathe that in. And when you feel it's done, just say yes. Woo. What were you feeling then, Ami? What were you feeling then? Right. Well done. You okay? Would you like to, if you can, if you can't explain it, it doesn't matter, but I just think it would be interesting if you can explain what you were feeling. You know, do you think you're feeling that for you? Do you think you're feeling it for her? What do you think was going on there?
I'm feeling for her because I hope those energy safe, special, always with her for whole of her entire life. Yeah, with mom's support, and then I will always be there for her in any condition, every time she needs support.
So what I'd like you to do, please, is, you know, just watch her over the next couple of days. And please, if you can, notice any changes, anything that she does a little bit differently, whether she feels more confident, more outgoing. Just look for some evidence of change and let us know how that is, please. And watch yourself as well, because that with mum and daughter, you know, you're picking up on her energies. And I suspect some of that was yours as well. It can't not be, Amy, right? Okay. All right. So now you want to clear yourself. Okay, so just, I'm Amy.
I'm Ami.
And I come back to me.
And I'm come back to me.
Say it again.
I'm Ami. I'm come back again.
One more time.
I'm Ami. I am come back again. I'm Ami.
And I come back to me.
And then I'm come back to me.
Yeah, good. Okay, so that was a great proxy session. You can see how powerful it is. And now we have to wait and see what happens to Felice. Any questions, anybody? And you can ask questions from me, from Susan. You can also ask Amy if you want to ask her anything.
I have one. It's not necessarily about Proxy in particular, but it happened in your game there with the green and the blue cards. I find that a lot lately, that many people are just choosing green and blue cards together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We talked about this once or twice. It's very interesting. What I'm noticing is people, they seem to get rid of their issue or, you know, the numbers really fast, but they need a lot, especially adults, you know, they need lots of the needs cards. And then they want to keep some of the needs cards and take them through into the blue. And generally, Khan, I would say that's perfectly okay. So like, say, for instance, listen to or support. It's a great reminder to bring it in as positive. But I've told the story more than once. I had one girl, and she said that she didn't need to go beyond needs. She didn't need any blue cards. And so I accepted that that's how she felt about it, because the magical you know, the play is always right. But when I was able to play the game with her myself, that she went beyond and she went into the blue cards. So if somebody wants to stop at needs cards, you know, it's great that that's what they need. But when you've got what you need, how does that make you feel? There's another step, right? There's the joy. You can choose joy, right, Susan? You know, is, but if you just stay with the needing support and stuff, but a mix of that, I think is fine. It makes a lot of sense, because what they were needing now, it's almost like they've got it and they just want to keep it.
Yeah, it felt exactly like that a few times, that there was such a, they released and there was a void and they just wanted to fill it. There was room to fill it up. That's what's been happening lately.
Yeah.
So they fill up with positivity. Why not? Yeah.
It's fabulous. As you know, the game will keep evolving. So it's great, and thanks for sharing that. And that's what you know, what we found with the safe card, and also different, is that, you know, different goes from being a negative card into a positive card, and safe can be what they need, or it can be what they want. So you'll be experiencing that. And I think it's, especially when you're playing with the child will go to the different groups. You might say, oh, have a look over here, and they'll go exactly where they need to go, rather than where we told them to go. So, because they still know how to play the game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Any other questions for me or Ami? Yes, Jean.
Thank you, Ami. That was really nice. No, my question, Jazz, is that I think I when I watch it, I feel the proxy can be a bit tricky. I think what I liked about how you demonstrated was that you were gently, not challenging, but gently questioning the topic, even with Ami. So I think in what stood out for me is that in this scenario, we can't just have the player be correct. So if you went with whatever Ami had said in the beginning about how her daughter is very outspoken and speaks her mind, and you know, Ami gets hurt with it. So I mean, what I took away is that in that situation, we can't look at it as the player is always right, and we have to look at the situation and remind the player that it's for her child. So is that the child's issue? So I think that's what I'm taking away quite nicely, is that maybe the question for this proxy and surrogate is that really that person's issue? Like, either have you been told that that person's struggling with that, or is it what you're struggling with as the proxy? So I think for me, I took that away. Yeah. So that's a interesting thing, I think, in working with the proxy. Not to assume that the player is going to be right and just go with that.
It's great, because if you think about it, Gina, you're absolutely right. The player is the one that's not, Felice was the player, and Ami is the proxy for the player.
Right, right. Yeah. So clarifying for what is the player's issue, not the proxy's issue.
And I think we could see at the end, and I'm not saying I'm right, but what I got a sense of is that then Ami, when we were rounding the corner coming to the end of the game, Ami's stuff started to come in, what she wanted for the little girl. So bringing in the family and stuff, I thought, no, the little girl wouldn't have, I'm not saying she didn't want family, but it was almost like Ami started to expand that into what Mum wanted for Felice. Nothing wrong with that. It's not going to do any harm, but it's just interesting. You know, we're all learning, and you can just question this and just say, well, do you think that's what, is that what Felice would want, or is that what you're wanting to give her? And if that's what you wanted to, you know, but this is about you. This is about you doing the session. And of course, we're not going to let anybody bamboozle us. We're not just going to accept everything that comes at us. We're listening, and I think this is the key, Jean. And I know you listen very well. Is when we're listening, we get we're in we know the situation. We're not just like, oh right, we're in it, and well, is that what the child would want, or is that what mum wants? And we're actually in the energy of it.
Yeah. So I think that's exactly like, I think with the proxy work, it takes the Magical You game to back to our sort of skill, in the sense where we can ask more questions and not just go with what's presented. Because I think if you were working directly just with the child, we'd say, oh, okay, and then kind of go with what the child's choosing. But I think here, asking a bit more questions seems, would help to clarify whose choice.
Also, Jean, this came up in the last training, is that the person who was being the proxy for somebody that they didn't know, and you don't have to know the person to be proxy. You just need to be clear. It's helpful, but I could be I could be Felice. I could be proxy for Felice, and I've never even met her, but I would choose cards based on a bit of information, but not needing to know everything. We're all connected to the energy, and Felice is going to get what she gets, and she's going to get what she needs without me needing to be 100% accurate with the cards that I'm choosing. There's a lot of trust. This is brilliant, big work, really expansive work. And this is what gets me excited, when you're doing stuff that you can't really explain. Great questions, Jean. Thank you. Anybody else with any questions?
Yes, I have a question, Jess.
Great. Thank you, Cadet.
Yeah, this is a Ibu Ami's thing. So did Ibu Ami need to tell Felice that she was have a release about Felice feelings to Felice? So because that you said that, okay, let's see in a couple of days how's Felice feeling, how she might be showing you something's different, something changed. How we know that Felice is getting changed? Do we need to tell her?
Great question. Well, that would depend on your relationship with the person that you've been proxy for. So Ami may choose to tell her, or she may not. But as a mum, she's going to notice. So Ami will notice that she has challenges, that when she starts to, when she sees something new, Felice is resistant, or she holds back. And then she sees it's okay, and then she participates. I think that's what she said. So now she might notice that there's a bit more confidence, or a bit more curiosity. So it will just be about Ami mainly looking. Davina's got to go. Bye, Davina. So it's really more about looking for the evidence and noticing it in a child. It's a lot easier for children and elephants to change than it is for us, and if Ami's watching, she will probably start to notice some little changes. Ami, would you feel like that you wanted to tell Felice what had happened or not?
She knows I did it with you, the releasing, because when I choose the magic thing, like the unicorn, she laughed, and I say, that's
okay.
Great. That's she knows.
Right. Okay. So, here's the situation. So let's see. So I'm the facilitator. Ami is in Bali, and Felice was in the room. Now, we could have brought we could have brought Felice, and Amy could have done the releases on Felice if she'd wanted. But if Amy had wanted, I was the first facilitator. Amy is the mum, and Felice could have been, if Felice had wanted to participate in the session, she could have come and joined and have the releases done on her.
Okay.
But we didn't know about that, and that wasn't the point. So Amy steps in and she becomes proxy for her daughter.
So Jess, that means for children under like 12, so you don't need permission. But if the person like 15 above, so we do need permission to do the proxy. Is it okay or not?
Let me say this, Amy. I'm not going to give you an age. I'm saying round about 12, but you know, a lot of it depends on the sophistication of the child. You know, you'll know. So I once did a session for a boy in Hong Kong. He was 11 years old, and his mum gave me permission to do the session. He didn't want the change, so he wouldn't let the session work. He had his own free will around what he wanted. And I watched the session and I watched the releases, and they had an impact on him, but he wasn't interested in the outcome that his mum wanted, which was to stop him playing on his screens as much. So he wasn't interested. So he had free will. It didn't matter what she wanted, it wasn't going to happen.
Okay.
So, you know, but so say you've got a child who's 19 years old, but they are special needs and they can't make those decisions. Mum can make those decisions. Dad can make those decisions. You just stay in integrity the best way that you can. Susan, do you want to say anything?
Not really. Thanks, Jess. I mean, it's all good. Yeah.
There's not a really specific age, but I would say round about age 12, you've got to, you know, if somebody comes and said, can you help me with my child? He's struggling with his homework or attention or whatever. Well, how old is he? Right? How old is he? And then go from that. And if, you know, and the question is, well, why won't he come for a session? Why won't he be the client? And if she's, oh, well, he's at school or whatever, it's like, oh, okay. And if that feels doable, then you go ahead and use her as the proxy. But don't say it's 12, under or over 12. Okay. You've got to just take the sophistication of the child into account.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Hello, Sue, you've been quiet.
Yeah, I've been listening.
You did some great proxies. Do you want to tell us about any of your proxies that you did?
Well, my proxy was the strangest thing I have ever done.
Oh, do share it.
One of my clients, who I'd done a lot of work on, she came from a divorced family, and even though she was now an adult with her own children, there was still a lot of tension around the divorce which happened in her childhood. And she had a brother and a sister. Her sister is still very, very negative in her outlook on life. Her brother, as a result of the aggressive divorce that he'd gone through as a child, he, in his teenage years, turned to drugs. And when he was 23, I think he was in such a bad place, he took his own life. And he didn't take his overdose in the family home where he lived. He went out into a woodland and took this overdose. But before it could react, he also, to make sure that he died, he put a noose around his neck and tied it to a tree, and he was found in the wood. And it had really disturbed this client of mine, but she felt that he needed to be released. And so she asked me if I would do a proxy for her brother. And we went through a whole gamut of feelings, and even her voice changed when she was talking, as if she was, you know, sort of manifesting him. But through him, she was talking about wanting forgiveness, because of, you know, what he'd done. But it was also he wanted, you know, one of the first cards she chose for him was the family one, but also being afraid, being worried, feeling under a lot of pressure. And when we got through to the blue and the green cards, they were completely muddled up. But she was chose things like family 2, being listened to, being cared for, being loved. And although she said that, you know, as children, they never felt unloved, she felt that he felt unloved. You know, she says now that she's got her own children, and looking back, she said, we were never deprived of love and attention, but that's how he felt. He wanted attention from both parents, and she felt that he turned to drugs as a cry for help, which, because her parents were so in such a bad place themselves, they never listened to. So at the end, when I spoke to her several weeks later, I was asked, you know, how did she feel? And she said, I feel at peace. So whether she was talking for her brother or for herself at that point in time,
Right.
That's what she felt.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And,
so
yeah.
that was the most difficult session I have ever done, as you can imagine.
Yes. And you know, and I wouldn't go looking for those sessions, but you know, what shows up is what you it's like, you can't say no, can you?
No, but that girl now, although she was a trained solicitor, she's now also trained as a divorce coach with my academy, so that she can help other families.
So there's something buzzing around in my head, and I had something going on, and it was around a death. I can't remember what it was now. I wanted to share the story, but I wouldn't go looking for those kind of things, everybody. You know, don't cross the line. But it is interesting if something comes to you, or so if somebody comes to me, I absolutely believe they don't come to me because I'm the best in the world. They come to me because I've got something that they want. And so I never say no. I always trust that I'm going to be able to handle what's required. And why do I believe that? Because I don't believe God gives me opportunities to fail. And so in my work, I always trust that. And I'm like, okay, no idea what. And I believe that's why we've got these, you know, fast track, and we've got this, is because because that's the way I am. I'm not the best, but I always say, yeah, and let's see where this goes. Very curious. And so that's what I think you need to do. Don't go looking for stuff or any black magic or anything like that. But if somebody shows up with some negative energy and maybe it is somebody else's, then you will be able to help them for sure. And I think, you know, the thing is to keep it simple, like with, I mean, I don't know how Sue was with that, but like with Amy is, I'm more interested in trying to remember all the details that Amy gave me about Felice and stuff and bring those to the table rather than to drop into the story. It's like, you know, let's just let's just play the game the best we can and see what happens, rather than being caught up in the emotions. And I think that's the best way to be. Is we are more efficient if we are. It's not that we're not compassionate people. I'm a very compassionate person and I'm very generous. But if I drop into the story of Amy and her daughter, then I'm losing my efficiency. If I stay removed for that and I'm remembering all of this other stuff, I'm in a different zone, let's say, and I'm able to, I pull that. But if I'm down here and like, oh, you poor thing, or that must be awful. Well, I don't have access to all this information out here. And being able to remember what Amy said, you know, things that I didn't write down, and I can give those words back because I'm not involved in the situation. I'm the facilitator of the change.
Yeah. Sometimes it's difficult to stay detached. When
Yeah, absolutely, something like that. So yes,
but you have to distance yourself from the emotions of the people involved.
Exactly. Yeah. Susan.
So what strikes me is there's so many things that came up today, you know, so many ideas and questions. And so in terms of going forward, what Jazz said, you know, next week we're going to do breakout sessions and have questions and answers. So it would be great if you could think about what questions you might have about all these topics and any confusion and things like that, so that we could so that we can address them.
The main thing, and thanks for that, Susan, the main thing is come next week with somebody, it could be a friend, and you've got permission from them to do a proxy session. And if it is a friend, just ask them, you know, what's bothering you at the moment. You don't necessarily bring in them, you know, the biggest life lesson, but you know what's bothering you at the moment, and bring that in, knowing that they've given you permission to play the game. One. All right, and so we'll finish now, but what we've got now is, so thank you very much for starting to send in your subconscious programmings. I've got a whole list of them to go through tomorrow. And so those of you who haven't sent me in this number 2 case study, please send it to me. And now, between now and the end of this training, we will be asking you for 2 proxy or surrogate sessions. So you've got quite a bit of time to get those to us. But what I recommend is that perhaps after next week, when you've had your own experience, then you go out and you find somebody to do one of these sessions on before it goes stale. But we will be asking you for 2 case studies on proxy and surrogate before the end of the course. So far, we should have received 2 videos from you, 2 case studies, and then next week we're doing proxy surrogate breakouts. Any questions? All right, class dismissed.
Thank you so much. That was really great.
I love you to bits. I think this group is
Yeah.
amazing.
Thank you, Ami.
Yeah, thanks,
Thank
Amy.
you,
Yeah, well
everybody.
done, Ami.
Bye-bye.
Keep us posted.
Cheers.
Bye bye.
Bye, Jean. Thank you. Are you all right, Ami?
Yep, just tapping something.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, I think something.
Oh, yeah, can't lose chickens.
Are you on a real typewriter, Ami? Sounds like a real typewriter.
Takes time for me. Thank you so much, Jess.
All right. Brilliant. I'm glad it was you that we chose. I didn't do it on purpose, but it was good. So keep us posted and just let us know what you notice in yourself and in Felice.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay.